how's everybody doing today? I'm going to be talking about 5 movie recommendations that I've gotten from some YouTubers that I watch. And these are 5 films that I probably would have never have seen had it not been for their recommendations. So I'm grateful for that. These are obviously ones that I've sought out and bought for my own personal collection. And yeah, definitely ones I think more people should check out. And then following these 5, I'm going to recommend 5 of my own movies. So hopefully, learn about something you maybe never have seen or heard about before. But yeah, let's just get started. The first movie I'm going to talk about was recommended by Sarah Hawkinson. Her YouTube channel is Possessed by Horror. This movie is called Starry Eyes, which she recommended. And I remember the first time I checked this out, I streamed it for free. I can't remember where, but I was traveling for work. I was staying in a hotel, and I just popped it on my laptop one night, and I was very surprised by how much I enjoyed it. Upon rewatch, it was a little bit slower of a burn, but the third act of this film, the final 30, 40 minutes, is just crazy. Very gory, a very interesting story, and one that I could not wait to show my girlfriend, and obviously one I want to show more people. So the story is about a hopeful young starlet who uncovers the ominous origins of the Hollywood elite and enters into a deadly agreement in exchange for fame and fortune. And the lead actress is played by Alex Esso. I hope I pronounced her name right, but I thought she was incredible in that film. She stole the show. I think I might have said that, but I couldn't take my eyes off her. I thought she gave a really great performance and a horror film that I highly recommend. Then we're going to move into another film called Rudderless, which actually came out in the same year as Starry Eyes. Both came out in 2014. And this film was recommended by Cody Leach. I'll make sure to tag these YouTube channels down below. But Rudderless is about a grieving father in a downward spiral who stumbles across a box of his recently deceased son's demo tapes and lyrics. Shocked by the discovery of this unknown talent, he forms a band in the hope of finding some catharsis. So yeah, definitely a film I probably would have never heard of. It's comedy, drama, and you get great musical performances in this film from Billy Crudup and Anton Yelchin. There's a very subtle plot twist in this film that I really didn't see coming, and they kind of just skim over it, and I was totally fine with it. Like it changed how you saw the entire movie, and it really just dives into how hard it is to lose somebody in your life and how we try to cope with that. But yeah, highly recommend Rudderless if you've not seen it. So moving into next one, which is Nightmare Beach, starring John Saxon. This is a Kino Lorber release, and this was actually the first time I'd ordered off of Kino Lorber's website. But this film was recommended by Serial at Midnight. I think Keith over there recommended this one, and this is nothing groundbreaking. Like it's from 1989. But this was about 5 years before I was even born, and it's just kind of a schlocky horror film. Like I said, it's nothing groundbreaking. It's basically about after the execution of a motorcycle gang leader convicted of murder, a helmeted biker goes on a killing spree during spring break in Florida. So you get this helmeted serial killer just riding around on a motorcycle, just killing people left and right, and it's the schlockiest thing you'll ever see. There's like this backdrop rock and roll music playing while he's riding around, and it's just, or anytime he's really around, the music starts playing, and it's just kind of silly, but it's just a fun time. Like, I feel like sometimes we just take movies in general too seriously, let alone horror films. I think this one just has its own kind of fun. I can see how it's kind of a predictable ending at times, the more you watch it especially, but definitely one I would have never have checked out had it not been for Serial at Midnight's recommendation. The two leads are, I might mispronounce this, Nicholas Detoff and Sarah Buxton. I thought they had a really good relationship on camera, And yeah, John Saxon's great in it. He's obviously been in a lot of other big films. Moving into this next one is a Korean film called I Saw the Devil. I actually cannot remember who recommended me this film, but I know it had to have come from YouTube because that's where I get the majority of my movie recommendations. But this is definitely one I would not have seen had it not been for that. I don't really watch a whole lot of foreign films, not that I'm against them either. Like, I think they're very well done, very beautifully shot, especially this one. Like, I've only seen it once, but I remember watching it for that first time, and a lot of the scenes and just the entire storyline just sticks in my head. It's a very straightforward storyline from 2010. It's just about a secret agent exacts revenge on a serial killer through a series of captures and releases. So it's a revenge story, but not your prototypical one. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I think it's really good at changing your perception and expectations of a classic, action crime drama. There are definitely horror elements in this film, and I'm going to mispronounce the main antagonist's name, but it's Choi means seek maybe. But you can tell how good of an actor he is because you legitimately hate him as a viewer. Like, I hated watching him in this film because he played such a good villain, and I think that's what sticks out the most. And yeah, highly recommend I Saw the Devil. It definitely makes me want to check out more foreign films. I've been seeking out Old Boy and look forward to watching that one day. And then actually moving into my fifth and final movie that I've loved and enjoyed from a recommendation is actually Warrior from 2011. And this obviously stars Tom Hardy, Joel Edgerton, Nick Nolte. And it's a sports drama that I had heard ruffles about. I'd heard here and there, but I've never been too big into the UFC or boxing scene or anything like that. But I watch Sean Chandler talks about, and I've also heard other people recommend this movie, but I finally bought it one day on a whim, and it's the best sports film I think I've ever seen. I like a lot of sports movies, but this one just does it differently. It's very gripping. You're on the edge of your seat the entire time. You're just constantly wanting to see what these characters are going to do next. The description of the movie is the youngest son of an alcoholic former boxer, played by Nick Nolte, returns home where he's trained by his father for competition in a mixed martial arts tournament, a path that puts the fighter on a collision course with his estranged older brother, played by Tom Hardy. I cannot wait to watch that movie again. I think I've only seen it the one time, but immediately I just knew it's the best sports film I've ever seen. And if you're going to take any of these films and go and watch it, I think Warrior is probably it's controversial because I Saw the Devil is really good too. It's between Warrior and I Saw the Devil as the best out of this group, but all of these are great films. Highly recommend them, and glad they were recommended to me. Moving into my 5 recommendations, and this was kind of tough to trickle down to 5 because there are a lot of movies that I like that I think a lot more people know about. I was trying to figure out, should they be movies maybe more people haven't heard about, but I just settled on 5 that I think everybody should watch, or at least give a chance. And I couldn't go through this video without recommending my favorite movie of all time, and that is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Now, this is obviously a more well-known film. It's directed by John Hughes, stars Steve Martin and John Candy. You've probably seen this more so around Thanksgiving time because that's when the movie takes place. But I can quite literally watch this at any time. It is my ultimate comfort. It's my ultimate comfort movie. And I'm always looking forward to opportunities to watch Planes, Trains, and Automobiles because I love it that much. It's from 1987. Basic description: a Chicago advertising man played by Steve Martin uh, must struggle to travel home from New York for Thanksgiving with a lovable oaf of a shower curtain ring salesman as his only companion. Obviously played by John Candy. Some of the best on-screen chemistry between these two. I remember watching this as a kid growing up with my dad, and there's this scene in the movie where these two share a motel bed, and they wake up, and there's a whole exchange about, I think John Candy says his hand is in between two pillows, and my dad and I would just quote that scene all the time. You get a great scene in this film. There's so many phenomenal sequences, but like Steve Martin talking to a car rental salesperson, and it's hilarious. I cannot recommend Planes, Trains, and Automobiles enough. And it's just in the way they wrap a bow on that film in the third act. It makes you feel good. It makes you appreciate what you have, and it also makes you want to give a little bit to maybe those who aren't as fortunate. So moving into my second recommendation is also another one that might be a little bit better known, but maybe one that doesn't get the credit I think it deserves, and that is Van Helsing, directed by Stephen Sommers, starring Hugh Jackman and Kate Beckinsale. I have always been a fan of this movie, and it's another film I just look forward to watching anytime I can. I'm just going to read the description because why not? I mean, most people know who Van Helsing is. And anyways, so Van Helsing is obviously this famed monster hunter, and he's sent to Transylvania to stop Count Dracula, who is using Dr. Frankenstein's research and a werewolf for nefarious purposes. It's just a good time. It's Stephen Sommers is the same guy who did The Mummy with Brendan Fraser. And so if you like The Mummy, I feel like you're really going to like Van Helsing because from beginning to end, it's a cohesive story. I think it moves well, and you're never bored. There's always good action. I think this is one of the best werewolf transformations I've ever seen in a film before. And I like Hugh Jackman and Kate Beckinsale's chemistry together. You get a great side character performance from David Wenham, who plays like this little monk, and he brings a lot of comic relief as well. But yeah, nothing that's going to take home any awards, but if you're just looking for a schlocky creature feature monster, classic monster horror film, then I highly recommend Van Helsing. And then we're going to go into my third recommendation. And these are a few that two of these last three are ones that I've seen far less than Van Helsing and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. But I'm going to go next to The Black Coat's Daughter, which is an A24 film. I used to travel a lot for work, so I would always stop at, Goodwills, Dollar Trees, Dollar Generals. And I remember just one day popping into a Goodwill and finding this movie, like $2 or $3. I was very hesitant on buying it because I just didn't know a whole lot about it. The synopsis sounded interesting, but horror is my favorite genre, and I do like Emma Roberts, who does star in this, and then you get a great performance from Kiernan Shipka as well. This movie is directed by Oz Perkins, but it's about two girls who must battle a mysterious evil force when they get left behind at their boarding school over winter break. So immediately, it's a great setting for a horror film. Winter break, you get this beautiful snow, and just snow, blood, goes really well together. This is probably the slowest burning horror movie I've ever seen. I watched it by myself the first time I saw it, and it is very slow moving, so I might turn people away from it. But I enjoyed it. There's plot elements of this movie I still don't quite understand, but I feel like the more I watch it, the more I might better understand it. But it's a very unsettling film. There are moments where you legitimately just feel really creeped out and just uneasy, and I think that's not only done through the acting, but the writing and the directing and just the atmosphere. It's a very atmospheric film. And the third act of this movie is also pretty wild. So, Black Coat's Daughter, happy I gave that one a shot. Sometimes it's okay to just randomly take a chance on a movie because you never know how much you might enjoy it. Going into this next one, I think I remember hearing somebody once saying something about this film, and then I, weirdly enough, found it at a Dollar Tree. But I own it on DVD. This is Two Night Stand, starring Miles Teller and Anna Lee Tipton. One of the very few rom-coms in my collection. Just not really what I tend to navigate or gravitate towards when I'm looking for a movie night. But, my girlfriend and I met online, and this is about two people who meet through a dating app, and they decide to, hang out one night, and she stays the night at his place, and then there's a giant snowstorm that keeps them together more than one night, hence the title. And I just loved the relationship and chemistry on camera between these two characters. It also helps that, Kid Cudi, who's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, musical artists, has a side character in this film, so that kind of makes it easier to go back and watch. But it's just a very cute film, especially if you're in a relationship. It's a good one to, just sit down with your significant other and just, appreciate having each other. A lot of comedic, good scenes in this film. This is another one that's not going to win an Academy Award or anything, but it's a feel-good movie, and sometimes you might just need that. So that is the fourth recommendation I will have. Moving into my fifth, which is a film I don't ever hear people talk about, and perhaps that's for good reason, but it's one that carries a lot of nostalgia for me, and one that I like more than the original. Sorry, it took me a second to get that out, but that is The Hitcher, which came out in 2007, and it's obviously a remake of the 1986 Hitcher, which I actually just watched for the first time, a couple weeks ago. I had watched this, which I've seen numerous times, and wanted to kind of stack it up against the original. So I watched them both in the same day, actually, which had its ups and downs. We'll start with the 2007 version, which stars Sean Bean as this serial killer, kind of hitcher who bums rides off of people and, threatens to kill them. But you also get Sophia Bush in this movie, who was in a lot of stuff that I watched growing up. And Zachary Knighton, who plays the boyfriend in this movie. If you've seen this movie, then you know how that ends. I'm just going to leave it at that. Neil McDonough, I might mispronounce that, but he plays the sheriff in this movie. He has some very quotable scenes, and he kind of makes you laugh every once in a while. But this movie was actually produced by Michael Bay, and I actually did not know that until I had rewatched this like a couple weeks ago. But I mean, immediately from the cover of this movie, it's from the producers of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, so you're in for a gory ride. How I came across this movie when I was growing up with, I'd go visit my grandma, and she would always take us to this little gas station that also rented out movies. And, while she was buying, packs of cigarettes, and she always had this thing for banana Laffy Taffies, she would let my sister and I go pick out some movies to rent. And this was one I picked out, and I remember getting in trouble from my grandpa while watching this because I was far too young to be watching a rated R movie. But it's one that's stuck with me. Sophia Bush and Zachary Knighton are playing this couple that are going to visit some friends, and they ended up picking up this hitchhiker played by Sean Bean, who's incredible in everything I've seen him in. I love Sean Bean, and there's always the running joke that he dies in every movie he's in, and I'm not sure how 100% accurate that is, but in everything I've seen him in, he does. Not to spoil this movie, but it's a very fast-paced film. I'm curious, actually, I'm going to look at it right now. The runtime on this movie is only an hour and 24 minutes, compared to the original, which is definitely a longer, slower burn from 1986. Never mind. That one's only an hour and 37 minutes, so only about 15 minutes longer, but the original kind of feels a lot slower paced. I liked the original. I liked the horror elements in it. I did feel like it kind of dragged on a little bit, which had I watched that one first, I might appreciate that one more, but I don't know. This one I've always had fun with. It's more of an action thriller than it is a horror film, but it's an action thriller with horror elements. And yeah, recommend The Hitcher. So yeah, thank you for tuning in. I hopefully brought some movies that you maybe haven't heard of before, or maybe some that you've been hesitant about watching, but between the 5 I've had recommended to me and the 5 I'm recommended to you, hopefully those are 10 movies that can hopefully bring you some enjoyment. And yeah, everyone have a great day. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.